Michael, since he is the prince, since he's the guardian of Israel, he goes back to this land of Moab, which is not Yahweh's territory, which is, symbolically the territory of Satan. He goes there. He wants to bring the body of Moses back into the promised land. If you have read this passage in Jude 9, chances are you might be asking the same question. I mean, what's all this business about Michael, the Archangel, fighting against Satan over the body of Moses? So today we're going to look at a couple of options, and without further ado, let's jump into the passage. Let me just read it for you. It says here, "Yet Michael the Archangel, when contending with the devil, he disputed about the body of Moses, durst not bring against him a railing accusation, but said, the Lord rebuke thee." Okay, option number one, and I've heard this a lot these few days. It says that Satan was planning to use the body of Moses, to create some sort of an idol to cause the children of Israel to stumble and to commit idolatry. I mean, well, it looks, well, yeah, it might be, but I just don't see why Satan would have to do that, because there are other options out there that I think that are far more effective and more efficient, something that doesn't have to involve fighting with Michael the Archangel. And once they got into the promised land, you have a whole selection of gods out there, just like Baal, Ashtoreth, Astarte, Chemosh, all these gods available. And we know that it was effective in causing them to fall into idolatry because they were exiled. Right? So, with that said, let me jump into the second interpretation. The second interpretation has something to do with the sin of Moses. Now, there is a tradition that says that because of the sin of Moses, when he was still when he killed the Egyptian down in Exodus chapter 2, Satan was using this sin of Moses to rail an accusation against Moses on probably why he shouldn't be, accepted into heaven or something like that. Now, let me just read to you this passage in Zechariah chapter 3. It says here, "Next I saw Joshua the high priest standing before the angel of the Lord, with Satan standing at his right hand to accuse him. The Lord said to Satan, may the Lord rebuke you, Satan. May the Lord who has chosen Israel rebuke you." So it sounds a little bit like Michael, what Michael said when he rebuked Satan, right? May the Lord rebuke you, something like that. So it sort of builds that connection. But the problem with that is that Joshua, or should I say Moses, there is no mention in the book of Jude talking about Satan accusing him of his sin. It doesn't say anything about, in fact, it doesn't say anything about the sin of Moses. It just simply mentions there that Satan was disputing against Michael over the body of Moses. So, with that said, let me move to the third option. The third option is one of cosmic geography. Now, if you understand the theology of the Old Testament, you will understand that the people were very particular when it comes to cosmic geography or territory. People in the Old Testament believe that certain gods rule certain places and certain nations. If you go back to Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 8 to 9, you're going to find out that God, when he disinherited the nations, he divided them up according to the boundaries, to different territories, and into different members of the heavenly assembly, or sons of God, as some of your translations would say. But the Lord's inheritance, his people, is Jacob. So if you haven't watched episode 9, I would recommend that you watch this episode about the divine counsel of God. But better yet, you might want to check out Dr. Michael Heiser's video. So with that said, Here's another example. David, when he was chased by Saul in 1 Samuel 26, verse 18 to 19. Now, just to give you a background, we know that Saul was trying to kill David. He was chasing him around, and David was forced to go to Moab, and he was also forced later on to go to the Philistines to serve Achish, the king of one of the kings of the Philistines. Now, David's concern is quite interesting. It's quite intriguing when you check out his concern, because let me read it to you. It says here, "So let my lord the king now listen to the words of his servant." So he was appealing to Saul, listen to what I have to say to you. "If the Lord has incited you against me, may he take delight in an offering. But if men have instigated this, may they be cursed before the Lord." And what's the reason for it? "For they have driven me away this day from being united with the Lord's inheritance, saying, Go, go on, serve other gods." So the theology of David is that if I did something wrong, if I did something to cause that will cause me, or that has caused me to be unfit to be a part of the Lord's inheritance, or to be part of Yahweh's people, then allow me, or allow me to provide an offering. May he accept an offering, because we know that the sin offerings are basically for removing the uncleanness the uncleanness of a person, so that he could be brought back into the community of God, so that he could be brought back into the congregation. So this is what David is talking about. If I did something wrong that caused me to be unclean, then let me make an offering, so that I could come back and join the congregation of God. But if not, then may they be cursed. If this is the work of someone or somebody, human, then may he be cursed before the Lord. "For they have driven me away this day from being united with the Lord's inheritance." Why? To go serve other gods. Because in the mind of David, if I go to Moab, if I go to Philistine, if I go to the Philistine territory, and if I have to serve their king, to serve their people, it's like I'm also serving their gods, because these people are governed or under the dominion of these gods. So he doesn't want that. It's like you're forcing me to go out from the territory of Yahweh and force me to live with the Philistines, who are serving their god, Dagon. Okay, so another example is the statue of Dagon. In 1 Samuel chapter 5, you're going to find out that when the Philistines defeated the Israelites, they brought the ark of the Lord into the temple of Dagon. When it was inside the temple of Dagon, the first day they found out that when they got inside the temple, Dagon was bowing down, prostrated in front of the Ark of the Covenant. The next day, when they put it back, and then the next day, it was decapitated. So the whole idea is the Ark of the Lord defeated Dagon. Okay, so Yahweh defeats Dagon. And look at the remarks of these people. "For this reason, to this very day, neither Dagon's priest nor anyone else who enters Dagon's temple steps on Dagon's threshold in Ashdod." And you know why? Because this was the place where Dagon was defeated, where his statue was decapitated. The whole idea is that this place which originally belongs to Dagon, is now under the dominion of Yahweh, because he has already defeated Dagon in that portion of Dagon's temple. Okay, so another example, let me just share with you. Naaman, the Syrian general who had leprosy. Remember the story? He was healed of his leprosy. He was told to wash himself. And then he was finally, after he was finally healed, he became a worshiper of Yahweh. You can find that in 2 Kings chapter 5. So Naaman finally became a convert. So he told Elijah, I'm going to go home, but then, if it's okay with you, I'm going to bring a load of dirt, enough for a pair of mules to carry. For your servant will never again offer a burnt offering or sacrifice to a god other than the Lord. So you can see here is that he already gave his loyalty and his allegiance to Yahweh. The problem is that when he goes back to Syria, he's not going to find a territory, or he's not going to find a place where it is owned by Yahweh. So he requests Elijah, if I could just bring some dirt home, and I would use this, probably put it in a place, and then that place will become Yahweh's territory. And that place there, I will be able to freely worship the God of Israel, Yahweh. So the whole point of this is that they were particular when it comes to cosmic geography. Okay. Now, having said all of that, there is a book called The Assumption of Moses, wherein it talks about the death of where Moses talked to Joshua about his death. And Joshua, of course, has his concern. So let me just read it to you. And when Joshua had heard the words of Moses that were written in his writing, as well as all that he had before said, he rent his clothes and cast himself at Moses' feet. And Moses comforted him and wept with him. And Joshua answered him and said, Why dost thou comfort me, my lord Moses? And how shall I be comforted in regard to that which thou hast spoken, the bitter word which has gone forth from thy mouth, which is full of tears and lamentation, in that thou departest from this people? And now what place will receive thee? So you see the problem with Joshua here. He finds out that Moses is going to die soon, and he doesn't know where the body of Moses is going to be buried. Well, let me continue. Or what will be the sign that marks thy sepulchre? Or who will dare to move thy body from thence as a man from place to place? For all men, when they die, have according to their age their sepulchres on earth. But thy sepulchre is from the rising to the setting sun, from the south to the confines of the north. All the world is thy sepulchre. So it's problematic for Joshua because he doesn't know where God will bury his body. Because at this point, Moses wasn't in the promised land yet. In fact, he was prohibited in going to the promised land. You're going to see this in Deuteronomy chapter 3, verse 23 to 29. Okay? God is going to bury him in the valley in Moab, just opposite Beth Peor. This is found in Deuteronomy chapter 34, verse 5 to 6. So you see the dilemma of of Joshua here. Moses is not going to be in the territory of Yahweh. He's going to be in Moab. It's going to belong to another God. It's going to belong to another it's going to be under the dominion of another God. So this was his concern. Okay. In Deuteronomy 32, go up this mountain. The Lord tells Moses, go up this mountain of the Abarim. We'll go to that in a while. Abarim, which is in the land of Moab, opposite Jericho, and view the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the people of Israel for a possession. Okay, you can go up, check out the view, but then die on the mountain which you go up and be gathered to your people. So you're going to die on this place. This is not Yahweh's territory. As far as, that's how they were thinking. Okay, but of course, this is not a problem for God. Now, let's go back a little bit. Talks about abarim, to pass over, according to the dictionary of deities and demons in the Bible, the word obarim, the verb form, to pass from one side to the other, seems to have a special meaning in the context of the cult of the dead, denoting the spirits of the dead crossing the border between the land of the living and the land and the world of the dead. So you get the idea here is that Moses is buried in the wrong place. This place is not under the dominion of Yahweh. It is under the dominion of other gods. Of course, when you come to the New Testament, this whole thing about the enemies of God, the sons of the disobedient sons of God and everything, it's sort of become packaged into one person called Satan. He becomes, the ultimate enemy. That's why in this verse, Jude talks about, Michael. This is where Michael comes in. No, we're not exactly sure where Jude got the idea of Michael disputing with Satan, but it may have been a tradition going on during their time. As you will see, according to the Cultural Background Study Bible, the Archangel Michael, only two angels who are named in the Old Testament, and the other one, of course, is Gabriel. They became the two most popular angels in the Jewish tradition, with Michael as Israel's guardian and generally the most prominent archangel. You see what's going on here? So Michael, since he is the prince, since he's the guardian of Israel, he goes back to this land of Moab, which is not Yahweh's territory, which is, symbolically the territory of Satan. He goes there. He wants to bring the body of Moses back into the promised land. But then Satan tells him, no, this is mine. He was buried here. So you get that whole idea. But of course, when you go to the New Testament, you find out that Moses comes into the promised land. And you know why? Because you see him during the transfiguration of Jesus in Mount Hermon. Okay? So with that, I hope this helps. I hope this helps in your Bible study, and I'll see you on the next video. God bless.